Okay, hi guys, good evening. So, this video is going to be about hearing from God, dealing with depression, and um, just steps on how to hear God talk to you in your real life and how to um, get over toxic relationships. So, I'm going to try and encompass all of that in this video. Let's go. So I was in the car today talking to myself. I really need to have a whole setup recorder thing. Somebody help me to find out how to do that in the car because I feel like I have the best conversations with God in the car and I feel like He wants me to share them. But then when I go and I record, or if I try and record in the middle of it, I feel like I get like shy or I lose my thought, I lose my train of thought. So anyway, here we are, and let's go. Let's get through it. So today I was really thinking about how how first it went from just habits, and then also thinking about how I previously never heard the voice of God. And I was like, I remember when my aunt would talk about hearing from God and hearing God's voice, and I would just be like, oh yeah, like, yeah, not saying that I heard it, but just like, how sometimes you hear things, or like you're just like agreeing with things that you might not have experienced personally, but if other people feel like they've experienced it or other people had that experience, how am I to deny you that? So I'm just nodding, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, until I got curious about it. And one day I asked her, like how do you hear God's voice? Like, what does it sound like, you know does He talk to everybody? I just had all these questions because I realized I have never heard His voice. Like, I have felt Him, I have felt the essence of God, and I knew that He was leading my life because of just the way that other people would talk to me, hearing from Him, and also just looking back on my life, how I could see that He has been there every step of the way. I felt Him, I felt His essence, I heard Him through other people, but I never heard Him audibly or spiritually in my life talking to me. So I asked her, and um, she said, He does speak audibly. It's quiet, and but it's a commanding voice. You will know when it's Him speaking. And she's like, sometimes it's not audible, sometimes it's in your spirit. And I was just like, I realized I never had that experience, of speaking to God. So that, or hearing God, I've talked and I prayed to God many a times, but I never heard Him talk back. I never thought that that was a thing, really. Like, I hear about it, but I didn't think everybody was privy to that access. You know what I mean? But anyway, so I had gone on a journey of wanting to hear God's voice and being very serious about how to hear His voice and how to, like, basically make God talk to me. Like, what do I need to do to get that, like, access? So that was one part of my decision with God, like, just becoming really serious is the key. Oh, okay. Um, Getting really serious with God and being very just forefront and honest with the God about everything. So anyway, that was one part of my talk with God earlier. Second thing was, um again, after my last relationship, I realized that I had let someone else's voice get into my head. Like, I had let their voice become a voice over my own, even internal thoughts. I didn't know that that was a thing, that you could start hearing other people's voices, other people's, like, first. So that was another thing, is that I realized, is that, like, you can hear voices in your head. You don't have to be diagnosed with schizophrenia to hear, like, you don't audibly hear them, but it's like weird thoughts that might just come out of nowhere in your brain or in your mind, that is not of you, that doesn't even sound like your voice. It's just a quick, like, thing, and you're like, whoa, you start to look at yourself differently, because you're like, where did that thought come from? You know what I mean? And so, really, you can have other voices or other thoughts in your head that is not yours. So, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I have that, but is I don't feel like that's God. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like the things that it's saying is godly. So I never attribute that to God. So I realized that you can literally have multiple things going on in your brain at one time. And also, that's why God says to take thoughts into captivity. Every thought is you want to make sure that you're realizing, you're calling it out, you're seeing the thoughts that are not of you, that are not in your voice, that are not of your cadence, and you want to make sure that you capture onto those and throw them out. But anyway, okay, that's one thing. So let me not jump so far into so many different lanes here. I'm trying to stay on the same lane. So I'm just talking to God about this. I'm going through these different things, and again, um, after my last relationship, after I had finally gotten like over that person, and God had really pushed them out of my life, because from the beginning God had told me not to get involved into a relationship with this person. And I begged God for just a year. I was like, oh, usually my relationships end in a year anyway, because I realized that that person was never good for me. But you're telling me now, but just give me a year with this person, and I'll make sure that it was that I'll get out, that it will happen the same way. I want to also caution you, if you are like me, stubborn as a mule, um, don't do that. Don't fight with God over someone he's telling you to get away from, because he's telling you to get away from them for a reason. So again, okay, previously hadn't heard from God, or not in the way that I thought that I would hear from God. During your hardest times, your loneliest, hardest, darkest moments, you'll hear from God. For sure. For sure. God is trying to speak to you. And if sometimes you might realize that that's his voice, sometimes you don't, and you don't even know that that's God trying to reach out to you. But I had that experience before. It was a warning. It was a warning call to tell me not to get involved. I begged God for this. And it's crazy because I had two relationships previous to that that just did not work, and I had asked God for someone that was going to be next to me, that was going to listen to me, and that was going to be, you know, I was like had a brief relationship where I felt like that person was not paying me any mind, wasn't paying me any attention, and so I prayed to God for someone that would come along and pay me attention, and would be by my side, like basically, and want to constantly hear from me, be with me. And I got that. I got exactly what I asked for, and not in the best way at all. And so God answers prayers. God answers prayers, but he also wants to make sure that he is who you're chasing after. You're like chasing after people will always always lead to heartbreak, no matter if that person is worth it or not. Because at the end of the day, we have finite lives. God is infinite. I'm going to leave it at that for now. Okay. So I got exactly what I looked for in that person. And I was like, God, this is what I asked for. This is exactly what I want. Give me the year to, be in this relationship, and I'll be out of here a year. I felt and I saw God, my first time, like I had asked God up until this time, this was 2020, guys. 2020, guys. I had asked God previous to this, I wanted to hear his voice. That was my prayer for a long time. And then I finally am hearing God's voice. And then what do? Do the opposite of what God is saying. Like if I, knew how to edit this video, I would have the applaud sign, or me just being like, you know, but imagine it. um, So anyway, so yeah, so I had, asked God to just let this go. So I had literally seen God, Jesus, put his hands up and be like, And if you grew up like me, or in a way like me, when someone does this, like when an older person does this in your life, hands of surrender, and walks away from you in that situation, that's another red flag. Not only did they audibly tell you, but this body language is another red flag to run the other way. But did I? No. It made me really think about it. And of course, during this, was that person perfect at all? Not at all. No, not at all. We already had issues from the beginning. Oh, and I'll tell you the issue. I had gotten into this relationship while they were already in a relationship. Another set of applause for me. So yeah, definitely was not what God had wanted for me. But again, God is patient and kind and wanted me to choose him. Wanted me to choose him. Wanted me to listen when I had been asking him longer than I had been asking for this person to hear from him. And when he finally talks to me, what do? I'm telling him what I think. Awesome. So anyway, as we continue, 2 years later, the relationship wears me out to and brings me to my breaking point where I can no longer do it anymore. I can no longer take another minute, another second of it. So what do? I run back home. And when I ran back home, which is a common thing for me, when I ran back home, um, not only just to God, but also to my mother's home. And that person followed me. That person followed me, and it took me another couple of months to finally really end that relationship and cut ties. And so, cutting ties meant that I now am alone. I have always been fine being alone, being single. But now in that relationship, I didn't realize how much of not only a physical but mental toll that relationship had taken on me. That I was so broken within that I no longer trusted my own voice. I no longer had my own voice. I was, it was so messed up that the person even told me, "You don't have to think, I'll think for you." Not saying I believed them or listened to them, but imagine what that does to someone's self esteem. Imagine what that does to someone to think you say that after you made a bad decision or something like that, or you feel like the other person is smarter, especially as they were older, you feel like they are more experienced and things like that. Like, imagine after they have been so right and you have been so wrong, what you might start to believe, that like maybe they would be better, and thinking or deciding for the best for both of you, because you're in a relationship growing together and trying to go somewhere together. Or that's at least what you think. That's at least what I thought, right? Of course I would think for myself, but then you start to realize and you start to slowly get to a point where you no longer fight as hard for your own thoughts. You are no longer speak up as loudly anymore. And so, as my inner voice and my inner self started to get diminished, what started to rise up was feelings of anger, feelings of deep sadness, feelings of depression and separation from God, because that's literally what it was. God was there all throughout the relationship. I heard God more throughout the relationship that I was with this person than ever in my life. And I have to thank God for that. And I have had people show up for me in that relationship more than I ever had, and that I don't even talk to now, but I have to thank God that I had people. You have to realize the people that care about you. And the fact that God cares about you so much that he would bring people that will not leave you alone, that will knock down your door and will continue to remind you of the person that you are and that you deserve better. Thank those people today. Anyway, um, lost track. Okay. So realizing after the relationship how I was not okay. I was not okay mentally. Like I fell into a very deep depression and had a lot of deliverance that needed to be done. And I didn't even know. I just knew that I needed someone to talk to that was not that person. I had been only talking to that person. I, of course, talked to my mother and I talked to my family, but I had moved across the country with that person and was really only with them and their family for those whole 2 years. Well, year and a half, 2 years, but it was very draining on my spirit and on my mind. And I so what is the first thing that you do when you feel depressed? I hope what is the first thing that you guys do, and except just running to God, you should always run to God first. But for a human, for human connection that you can talk to like here on earth face to face, I sought a therapist. And I pray that if anybody is watching this video and you are in that place that I was in a very dark place with very dark thoughts, and you're not listening to your own thoughts, but you're listening to those dark thoughts or someone else's mind and their track, their endless CD or what is it, Rolodex, or what is it, record, right? Their record and their tracks are going through your mind instead of your own. I pray that you not only seek God, but you also seek someone to talk to, a therapist. So I went and I got a therapist, and I thank God for that therapist because they were actually able to encourage me and validate me, and not thinking that I was crazy, and telling me that yes, what I'm going through is what I'm going through, and giving me actionable steps to get out of the depressive state that I was in. I thank God for that therapist. And so, but again, I was one disclaimer. I've heard horror stories with therapists. If you are dealing with a toxic therapist who is not making your situation better, who is not encouraging you to be the best self that you are, you need to find a new therapist. Get out of that relationship, because any toxic relationship while you're already in that state is never what you want to jump into. Don't, and I also do not recommend jumping into another relationship right after that. That relationship, I had said, broke me in such a way that I was totally, totally done with relationships for a long time. And I still am. I still am. And that was 6 years ago. Well, the relationship ended in 2022. So 4 years ago. That's how long it was. I knew that I needed to heal. I knew that I needed to heal. And if you're in the healing process, please, I implore you, do not jump into another relationship right after a toxic relationship, because all you're going to do, hurt people, hurt people. And sometimes that's all somebody wants to do is because you feel hurt. You are going through hurt that someone else has given you, or that you feel like you have done to yourself. And that's the worst place to be in. That's the worst thing to do to someone else that is just trying to love you, is bring them through a world of hurt that they did not bring to you. Okay, so 2 disclaimers there. All right. So I saw a therapist, but again, a therapist is only there for an hour, 2 hours out of the week. Maybe you have money to or insurance that will pay for a therapist for longer than that throughout the week. But again, still only a couple of hours throughout the week. Guess who you have to still deal with in those other hours when the therapist isn't there? Yourself. So guess who has to do most of the work? Is you. You have to still you have to still encourage yourself. Get up out of bed yourself. See that there are better and brighter days, that God is still giving you breath to continue to go on, to make it to the next day. And that is a blessing. That is a blessing every day, no matter what you're going through, is a blessing, because that is just God giving you another opportunity. Another opportunity. That's it. That's where I'm going to leave it. Anyway, so yes. So you have to do the work. You have to do the work. You can't just sit there, or I implore you not to just sit there and wallow in the mess that has been made in your own mind and in your own heart and in your own spirit, but to journal about it, to write about it, uh, even if it is some of the darkest things that you don't want others to find or know about. Write it and burn it. Write it and release it, because keeping it bottled up in your mind and keeping it bottled up inside is not the way to live. And letting that track go on and on and on just to torture yourself is not healthy. So I pray right now, Lord, that whoever's watching this video and is in that place, Lord, that you sit there with them, you help them to know that they are worthy of more than whatever that other person has said that you're worthy of. You are so worthy of every good time, of every happy smile, of every sunrise and sunset. You are worthy of laughs and joy. You are beautiful. You are worth it. We're glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're here. God is glad that you're here, that you made it another day, that you took another step forward. Tomorrow is better than today. And after every dark night, thank God there's a sunrise. Thank God there's a light in the darkness. Okay, so dealing with the depression. So one, seek a therapist, seek someone to talk to, because talking about it and writing about it is so important to the process and to the journey of getting yourself out of this bad habit of bad thoughts. Secondly, is cling to God. That was something that I had to do. There was nothing that was going to help me more than understanding and coming to my Creator, sitting at His feet, kneeling at Him, and not only saying thank you for another day, but saying sorry for not listening to you. Sorry for not allowing you and your voice to get through to me, to penetrate my soul. Sorry for allowing myself to go through this hurt when you told me not to, when you warned me. Not only that, but also, like, we have a purpose, guys. Why do you think that you are created? Why do you think that you made it here? Do you know how many sperm you had to fight to make it to the egg? Do you know? Look it up. Billions. For you to make it here. You know how much had to happen in the 9 months for you to have eyes, nose, lips, hair, working larynx. Do you know what it took to make you? You are not an accident. I don't care what anybody says. You are not an accident. God does not see you as an accident. You have a purpose. You have a reason to be here. And I pray that you see that. And so I had to go back to my Creator who created me and ask Him, like, even if you have the question of why am I here, just continue to ask Him. He will answer you. But again, I had to seek my Creator because I already knew Him. I knew that He told me not to do this. I had to say sorry, say thank you, and continue to move and ask Him, what is it that I need? What is it that you have for me? What can I do to get this pain away, to not go through this pain of what my heart feels? And guys, what came out of that, I had to do a fast. I completed my first 21-day fast. I did not drink, I did not eat anything. I just drank water. And I will tell you, you don't have to do the same thing. A 7 day fast, a 3 day fast, a 1 day fast, just praying, just being. But why I had to go through a fast is because I needed true deliverance. I didn't know that I had taken on spirits and bad, evil things that, where did it come from? And it was a deliverance of lesbianism, a deliverance of bad thoughts, suicidal thoughts, like you name it, depressive thoughts, just having, like I said, someone else's uh, voice in my head instead of God's voice or my own voice. Just so many things that I had to be delivered from. And God helped me and delivered me through that fast. I was praying, seeking Him, crying, and I had a dream. I had a dream. I had a literal dream. And in that dream, I threw up black. I just couldn't stop. I was in a room full of grandmas. And it was funny, like in the dream, I still remember it to this day. Someone I knew from high school had told me, it's like, oh, in the house. And I had gone in the house and I wasn't expecting it. And it was just like these grandmas came out of nowhere and started praying for me. And I was releasing, throwing up black, throwing blood, throwing up in the dream. And I had woken up and I was scared. I was so scared because I thought that it was demonic. I thought it was like, oh my goodness, like God, like there's demons inside me. And for a year, I had thought that like that was a bad omen, a bad sign, until my friend, who is a Buddhist, was like, have you ever looked it up, what the meaning of like the dream was? And I was like, no. And it's crazy because I'm somebody that loves dreams and I look up dreams from people all the time, but I never looked up the meaning of that dream. I just thought I knew. And that's another thing, another little tip. Do not think you know, guys. Look up everything. Go to the Bible, ask people about it, because if God had also just planned that as well, because I had not told anybody about that dream, but she had told me about her dream and then asked me about a crazy dream I had. I told her that I told that one person and she told me to look it up. I looked it up and it told me it was releasing. It wasn't a bad omen, but a good one. That night God had broken chains off of me that I didn't even understand needed to be broken. And from that point on, not from the day that I looked it up, but from the day that I was delivered in my dream, I was delivered from lesbianism. I was delivered from being depressed. The year later, I was a completely different person. God had done a 360 in me, and I didn't even recognize the person that I was the year before. All I knew is that I needed Him and that I needed to be at His feet and that I needed everything He had to give me. And I accepted it, and I accepted that I was born again, no matter what mistakes and trials and tribulations that I had gone through, that God was there with me every step of the way. It didn't matter if I was homosexual, if I had lovers in the past, premarital sex, all these things that people are trying to tell you that you need to clean up before you come to God. No, He is there with you right now. He sees you exactly where you are and He loves you. No matter if you're gay, no matter if you're a Satanist, no matter if you're a Buddhist, no matter who you follow, God, Jesus loves you. He died for you. He died for you and wants you to return to Him, to choose Him, to just see the love that He shares for you. And I am just here to share that story with you. I shared all of this to come back to the conclusion that God, Jesus, is the only way, the truth, and the light in that darkness. There's no one else. There is no one else. There's a bunch of humans that would love to be there, but we all fall short. We are all sinners. So I can't save you, and your neighbor can't save you, your girlfriend, your boyfriend can't save you. And I don't care what you're in the midst of doing. I pray that you give your life over to Jesus. And if you want to give your life over to Jesus, just pray this prayer. Just say, Jesus, come into my life. Clean me. I believe that you are my Lord and Savior, that you have died for my sins, and that you will come again. So take me as I am and renew me and make me new in your blood. And thank you so much for all that you have done for me. And so I pray for you. I just love on you. And if you have any questions or anything, or if you want any deeper, stories, I'm here for it. I've just been, you don't know how long I have been wanting to share this. And so let me know what you think. I love you guys. I hope you have a great night. Bye bye.